The Legend of the Blue Fountain. It was a cloudy November day. A boy named Felix wandered about the streets of Goleniów. Cold wind ruffled his curly, fair hair. In his hand, the teenager held an empty soda can. He sat on a nearby bench and tossed the can on the ground. He sat and pondered. After a while, he got hungry, so he decided to have something to eat at his favorite cafe on Szczecińska Street. It wasn't far away, so he arrived quickly. He ordered a piece of pie and sat at the table awaiting his meal. From his seat, he could see the fountain that stood in front of the cafe. He walked out of the cafe an hour later, sat on a bench, and watched jets of water spouting out of the fountain. That's soothing, he thought. Suddenly, he heard an unfamiliar sound. He went over to the fountain to see where the sound was coming from. His eyes searched over the surface of the water, but he didn't notice anything out of the ordinary. Felix thought he must have misheard. But then water started spouting with a double force, wetting his light blue jumper and black trousers. Out of the water, a bizarre creature emerged, as if it was coming from another world. Terrified, the boy looked around for someone who would assure him that it wasn't really happening, someone who could help him, but no one was there. He wanted to run, but some force held him in place. He stood motionless and watched the creature approach him. The creature resembled a toad, but it was bigger, and its skin had a color unlike any other toad he had ever seen. It was like purple navy. The creature's head was immediately joined to the rest of its body, and it had a large mouth with even larger lips. The creature's back and extremities were strewn with dozens of white dots, like craters, or more precisely, pimples and blemishes. The huge bulging green eyes of the creature filled the air with a glow. Its skin was covered with a strange slime. The paws of the creature were outspread, all four of them ending in crooked fingers with nails like sharp claws. It was moving slowly and lazily, leaving a trail of some kind of strange slime behind it. It was abhorrent. Felix stared at the animal in disbelief. This must be a weird dream, he thought. Then, out of nowhere, an empty can rolled towards him, the same one he had thrown on the ground earlier that day. The can was followed closely by a plastic bottle. Next, the wind blew in a few crumpled tissues and some paper. The pile of garbage was growing by the second. Felix's brown eyes darted between the rising trash pile and the creature. He was absolutely sure that the strange creature was responsible for this invasion of waste. A couple of minutes later, the pile stopped expanding. It had grown quite big. At that moment, the boy realized that all of those pieces of paper, bottles, and cans belonged to him. He was the one who dumped them on the sidewalks and lawns, left them in the forest, and even threw them into the Ina River that flowed through the city. He figured that this was Mother Earth's revenge. He understood that his behavior was wrong. He cleaned up the little pile and never littered again. What's more, he learned how to segregate trash, and he encouraged his friends to follow his good practices. Later on, Felix discovered that he wasn't the only one who'd had an encounter with the creature from the fountain. It is said that the animal appears to everyone who pollutes the environment. People call the fountain the Blue Fountain because in the evenings the water often turns bright blue. Despite the beautiful color, those who don't care about the environment should be wary. If they don't change their ways, they will have to stand face to face with the waste toad. The end.